everyone. I'm so glad that you're here. So in nursing informatics, we talk about the exchange of information, and how to find that information is really important. So I wanted to talk about the medical subjects heading, otherwise known as MESH, and you can find this on the National Library of Medicine. And this is how you get specific health vocabulary in terms of keywords on how to find information. So, for example, you wanted to find something out about allergic reactions to lisinopril in African Americans. If you just type in that full key phrase, you're going to get any word that hits the query. So you're going to get and, African American, African American, American and so the mesh terms help split that up specifically so that you can be cue in your search a little better. So what is a mesh term? So it is a controlled vocabulary thesaurus, and this was developed by the National Library of Medicine. It's used by Medline and PubMed, and usually EBSCO and CINAHL have their own version of this. So I know like CINAHL has CINAHL terms, and EBSCO uses Boolean phrases, but they all have the same kind of background. So it takes that guesswork out of choosing terms that you need to enter into a search. And it'll look at the appropriate term to use when you're looking for the information. So the preferred information. Okay. So how does it organize information? So there's over 17,000 words that are updated annually in MESH vocabulary, and it's divided into a hierarchical tree structure with less specific to more specific as you go down. And then there are also tree subcategories in which you can look for things. The tree structure allows to find relevant MESH terms and correspond them to the articles in PubMed, even if you're only thinking about general concepts. So that helps dwindle down your search because it can be overwhelming when you come up with 1,500 articles. You're not going to look through even 1,500 titles, and you might miss something important. So you're going to have control of both precision and recall. So I'm going to show you guys how to do a mesh, a article search using mesh terms. Okay, so now we're going to do a mesh search. So I go to PubMed, and you can also put in mesh database, but I'm used to going this way. So you click on mesh database. And here's where you're going to type in key term searches. So really quick, I want to go back. I'm here at PubMed and just say, I want to look up the incidence of death among African Americans with diabetes who get a foot ulcer. So incidence of death among African Americans with diabetic foot ulcer. Go back and correct my spelling. Okay, so I got 0. Maybe I wasn't specific enough. Maybe there's too many words. So I'll put death, African American, diabetic foot ulcer. Make sure you capitalize African because it is a proper noun. And you get 1. So now you're thinking, okay, this is impossible. And that's when you use your mesh terms so that you're being very specific to what you want. So mesh database. All right, so I'm going to put in diabetic foot ulcer. And if you look here, they have the definition of what a diabetic foot ulcer is, complication. And if you see these subheadings, they have things like epidemiology, so cause of it, immunology, etiology, epidemiology, incidence of it, etiology, the pathophysiology behind it, genetics, history, metabolism, and mortality. So we will look at that. And if you see here, here are the trees I talked about. It's hierarchical and it goes from broad to more specific. So we're going to click on mortality. And let me just get rid of all this. I'm going to add diabetic foot and mortality. And I'm going to look up African American. Okay, African Americans. And I'm going to add it to my search builder. And now I'm going to search PubMed. And it is showing me 0. So I'm going to go back and I'm going to take out mortality and add that. And then I'm going to go back and put in African American. And I'm going to add it and look under PubMed. And I have 15. And so that's a lot easier for me to look for. And you can look through all of these. So I'm not finding too much on that. So maybe I want to add mortality. So then I'm going to go back and look in the MESH term death. Add that to my builder. Diabetic foot. Add that to my builder. And now let's search PubMed and see if it breaks it down. And there is 10. So you can look at that. Also, to see the MESH terms that were used in an article, you can click on the article, and these will show you all the different MESH terms used. So I was taught in school to always try and get 99 with your search. So you might need to flip around the way you order and use terms. So here's an example. Okay, so say I want to study how nurses help, here we go, how education prevents foot ulcers in African American adults. Okay, so you're going to look at education, diabetic foot care, diabetic foot ulcers, African American adults, diabetics, nursing education. So those are the keywords that you would normally use. And then you go under the MESH database So the first thing we're going to put is education. And education is the term. So you go back to your Word document, and you know that your MESH term is going to be education. All right, diabetic foot care. No terms found, so you know that that's not going to be it. We know diabetic foot falls under diabetic foot. And now we're going to look up care. And we know the diabetic foot ulcers falls under diabetic. All right. How about nursing education? Education/nursing. And so on and so on. And your goal is to mix it up, right? To see if you can get 99. So we'll put diabetic foot. Diabetic foot. African American. Let's see if we can get anything from there. 0 terms. So you have to mess around with it until you can get some terms. So how about prevention? Tertiary prevention, secondary prevention, primary prevention. Let's try primary prevention and diabetic foot. And here we've got 51. And so you add and subtract terms until you can get, I would say, about 100 to 200 different terms. And that is it on mesh terms.